Zier sent yesterday. All right. We'll go ahead and start. Okay, so good morning. Welcome to the kickoff meeting for the Colorado Department of Agriculture Stakeholder Review on Industrial Hemp in Commercial Animal Feed. By the way, that is a mouthful to say. I'd like to begin by first thanking each and every one of you for assisting the department on this project. We appreciate you lending your time and your expertise on this important issue. I am Hollis Glenn. I am the Director of the Inspection and Consumer Services Division here at the department. Joining me today in the back of the room are my program managers Scott Zier and Mark Gallegos. Together we oversee the management of a number of regulatory programs for the department, including regulation of commercial animal feed. The interest of including industrial hemp into feed, both for household pets and livestock, continues to grow at a seemingly fast pace each year. It's an issue that has caught the interest of so many different industries and professional fields, not just hemp producers and hemp manufacturers. It also is a growing issue, not just here in Colorado, but across the country, which quite frankly is why we have such a large stakeholder group. Even though this review rose from Colorado legislation, it's not just a Colorado issue. This is a national issue, requires a national solution. And any conversation about moving forward needs to include a broad base of perspectives, which is why in this group is comprised of not just hemp producers and hemp processors, but we have feed manufacturers, ranchers, attorneys, veterinarians, academics, economists, and state and federal regulators. I believe we assembled a blue ribbon stakeholder group to look into the possibilities and challenges of hemp in feed. I mean, let's face it, this is a complex issue with complex questions. It's an important issue, but I believe this group has the broad expertise and professionalism to have the discussions and begin to ask and answer the tough questions, find areas of common ground, establish a common understanding, and find a general consensus and a direction to go forward. Over the last year or so, I've come to know and spoken with a number of people, both on the regulatory world and in Colorado's a thriving hemp industry. And I've talked and listened more and more. It seems to me that there has not been like an initial dialogue conversation among the parties involved, despite the presence and the fact that we continue to see industrial hemp being included into animal feed more and more each day. In a way, what I kind of feel like is that the regulators and the hemp processors and manufacturers and feed manufacturers are kind of like ships in a night, passing one another, not really understanding each other's worlds. And really what needs to happen is simply the first step is to have a discussion. Bring everybody, all the stakeholders in a room and begin to have a discussion. That way we'll begin to kind of what I think is, what I envision is lay a blueprint of understanding of what needs to be done in hemp to be, in order for it to be considered a safe and legal use in animal feed. The interest of expanding hemp into the market makes sense. The interest of expanding the marketability of hemp is real and does make sense, but including hemp into the food chain is loaded with difficult questions that need to be explored, which is why I believe the Colorado legislature passed this bill establishing this stakeholder review. As I mentioned, there are tough questions here to be answered and different perspectives that need to be taken into account. But the challenges we have from the legislature here is to see if we can identify a path forward. What that means, whatever that means, taking into account the constraints and obstacles that need to be addressed, that is the objective of our review. Can I switch the slide? Thank you. There it is. There we go. All right. So what is our output? The simple output of this project is that we're going to provide a report that's due at the end of the year. It's going to be a public report that's presented to the Colorado legislature. This report will ultimately be a reflection or summary of the discussions that you as stakeholders will have in the next couple of months in regards to, one, the regulatory requirements, the animal nutrition, safety, and public health, as well as the agricultural economics surrounding this issue. As a group, we will look to see if there are recommendations or action items that can be identified and then what are the pros and cons surrounding those items. So that is the takeaway, that is the output, is a simple report capturing your comments and your discussions over these next couple months. Spearheading this project is Government Performance Solutions and my good friend Greg Belomo. Greg and his team, Brian Poole and Kate Newberg, have had years of experience in process improvement and project facilitation. They have spent a good number of time already getting to understand the nuances of this issue and are excited to be part of this project. I am excited to have them as our facilitators and believe they're going to do an excellent job in helping us quickly focus the discussion in an efficient and meaningful way. So with that, it is a great pleasure that I introduce Greg and turn over the rest of kickoff to him. Once again, guys, thank you so much for agreeing to spend the time and energy in us discussing this important issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. Quick check. Those of you on the phone, are you able to hear us okay?
Yes.
Great. If that stops at any point in time, just butt in and we'll do our best. We're in kind of a big room with a lot of folks, so we'll talk a little bit about some norms for participation to make sure that everybody can hear effectively and speak when they have something to share. I am Greg Belomo. I'm joined today by my colleagues Kate Newberg and Brian Poole. As Hollis said, we're a Denver-based public sector consulting firm. This is our 5th legislatively driven stakeholder convening type group. Some are called task forces, some are study groups, whatever you call them. It's where you actually convene the experts and understand where we have common ground, where there are differences in interest and differences in opinion, what information we'll need to bridge those gaps. And that's what we'll be working with you all today. And for the next, call it 4 months, okay? What we're trying to do today, we're going to align on the goals, roles, and ground rules for the effort. Then we're going to talk about a proposed roadmap for you all to deliver on the mandate that Hollis just shared and that you've been given by the legislature. And we're going to define the key questions that this group should answer. We don't have time today to answer those questions. We only have time to make sure they're a comprehensive group of questions, and then we'll engage with you as smaller groups to actually discuss them, seek information, deliver information, so that we can present at the end a meaningful report that moves the issue forward. And sometimes this thing doesn't work. All right. The agenda page, and page 8 for those of you who are following along, not on the webinar, I'm only going to highlight a couple of things. I'm going to give the process overview. We'll do introductions in a moment. We're just going to go alphabetically. And I've asked a few of the folks in the room that I was able to meet beforehand to give a perspective from their point of view and from those that they represent. What's your position on the issue? Just to kind of get the conversation started, okay? Scott Zier is going to give us about 10 minutes on Ingredient Approval 101. Make sure everybody's grounded in the different ways, what they have in common, and what sorts of studies might be necessary. We're going to take 25 minutes to potentially narrow the field. And what we mean on that is if the issue is a mile wide, we want to make sure that we make progress. And in speaking to about a dozen of you before today, what we know is that because the issue is a mile wide, that focus is going to be necessary for us actually to make progress and not just have 4 or 5 more months of disorganized discussion. So we're going to ask you right up front, or do you think there are areas that should be focused on? Are there things that we think should be off the table? Okay. We're calling the framework that we've built an idea exploration framework. It's basically the set of questions and the groups that we've used comprised of you all who will discuss those questions and develop perspectives and recommendations. Okay? So we'll do that in small groups. We're going to do breakouts, and in the information that Scott sent earlier, we're going to have to do a little bit of logistic wrangling. We're going to open up a couple more lines. We're going to move into a couple of different rooms. It's going to be a bear. We appreciate your patience in advance as we sort of make the technology do what we want it to. And then we'll get back together at the end to do 2 things. One, explain what sorts of adjustments you made to the initial question list in your small groups, what you think we should do, and then just clarify those next steps. So I'm going to pause right there. How are we doing on agenda, purpose? Is it clear enough, or do you have questions at this point?
Good. Good to go.
Good. I'm seeing a few thumbs in the room, and hopefully a few on the telephone line. So we talked a little bit about what we're going to do today. Beyond today, here's what we're imagining. Get together today, talk about the questions themselves. We will not have time to answer them, but we just want to make sure it's the right list. We've got the right people in the right groups. We've got a sensible structure to air these issues, okay? We're then going to break you up into a series of subgroup workshops. Some groups as small as 10, some as big as 15. We'll have a set of half-day workshops, and we're imagining 2 right now, with a bit of work done in between to prepare information for people's review. Hey, read this. This is what we found. It's the latest out of France. This is a study that came out of Washington State, and we think it's interesting. We think we could use part of this to kick off one of the discussions that we need to have. That sort of thing. Get you guys together, provide a good forum for give and take discussion, with the goal of developing options and iterating toward potential recommendations. So then what we'll have is 3 groups who spent quite a bit of time together, and we need to bring you back together. So we'll share the outputs of those subgroup meetings with everybody, identify areas where we need to integrate things or areas where we have seemingly have conflict, and we need to debate those. We'll do that in the November timeframe with the goal of getting to a consensus list that feeds the writing of the report. Okay? You all are not responsible for writing the report, but we need to make sure that we provide clear inputs so that the report can be done professionally and that it achieves its goal of actually educating and providing expert perspective on how we move forward. Show of thumbs, is the roadmap sensible? Cool. By the way, if it doesn't work, we'll do something different. This is just where, as far as we can see today, but we think we have a decent question list. We know we've got the right group of people, and we think we've got you in the right combinations. But as we actually dig in with this, we'll make the changes that we need to, and I invite you all to share your perspectives and your recommendations for how to make this successful. All right. A word on roles. You all, as group members, have been selected very purposefully, and collectively you represent a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different expertise, and stakeholders that are not in this room. So what we want you to do is actively participate, provide your own expertise and perspective, but also a broader perspective for those who are not in the room, but represent your same group of people. We need you to ask clarifying questions and pursue information. Where we don't have it, we've got to go get it. We'd like to ask you just to be the professionals that you are, identify areas, seek solutions, collaborate openly. We'll provide the facilitation to make that happen. If you have concerns, please share them either with the group directly or share them with your facilitator. And from that, we'll take action on it. This is an issue around which there's a lot of passion, and many of you have great interest in this and have already done a lot of work. If you can help us outside of meeting time to help move things forward, provide perspectives, resources, do some research, etc., as much as your schedule permits and you feel inclined to do so, you are invited to do so. I think it'll be important. What's our role? We got to make sure that we provide you a structured approach, that we keep you on track and progressing toward our goals. We'll work with you all to make sure that the information is shared broadly and that everybody gets it with enough time in advance to fit it into your busy schedule. I'm guessing that this is nights and weekends type work for many of you, and we appreciate that. So we'll try to give you all information and all requests in enough time that you can do something with them. Lastly, we will seek to help balance the group's perspectives. Recognizing that you come from different places, we need to make sure that each of you has time to participate and that we help you seek common ground. The department has a couple of things that we're going to ask them to do. They've convened the group. They're approving the structure and providing resources. Okay, they've secured us. We've worked with. Actually, Bill is going to supply some assistance on the drafting of this. So the department is helping to shepherd this, and they'll oversee the drafting of the report, but the department itself is also not drafting it. They'll participate, however, in the presentation of findings. I'm going to pause there. That seemed like a sensible division of labor? Yeah? All right, again, where we bump into boundaries, speak up. We will take action to make sure that it works. All right. I mentioned the technology earlier. It would be lovely if we could all be in the same room, looking each other in the whites of the eyes, but this is a national issue, as Hollis said, and it's impractical to get everybody together for each of the interactions. And so we're going to make do with things like webinars and teleconferences, and we all know the pitfalls of working with those. So what we'd like to ask from everybody is have a little patience with that technology. Repeat your name each time you speak, okay? Just so that everybody knows who you are. We don't have recognition of each of our voices yet. Be brief and stay on topic. For those who are in the room, as little crosstalk as possible. Keep your devices silent. Try not to shuffle your papers right in front of the microphone. Those who are on the phone, gosh, it can be nightmarish when a big room is unruly. Okay. For those of you who are on the phone or listening on the computer, please interject. Use mute when you're not speaking. You get high marks so far. I'm not hearing feedback or a barking dog in the background. And then do your best to participate in the discussion. And if we've got to find a different way to do that with cameras or whatever, we will. All right? So, thanks for that. Last thing, decision making. So we are 4.5, 5 months from when we actually have to deliver anything to anybody beyond this group. But I think it's important to ask the question of how will we make decisions as a group? You're more than 30 people, all of whom have been selected because you're kind of at the top of your field, so you have strong opinions and you have informed points of view and vested interests and all of those things. Here's how we think about this. There's at least 2 common decision-making protocols. One is consensus, where you pursue consensus, and even if you say, look, that isn't exactly how I would have wanted it, but I'm okay going forward with it. Another is majority rule. You basically say, look, we got 11 votes, you got 9 votes, this is the group's opinion. Okay? We would propose a hybrid, and I'd like to get your feedback on this. And the hybrid is, let's pursue consensus wherever possible, and if we have a strong minority opinion, we'll just document that. So the group in general feels this and recommends this. However, there's a significant minority who wishes to share an alternate opinion. And we just give you a bit of real estate so that that can be heard as well. That's truly how we communicate as individuals. So that's our proposal. What do you think?
Cool.
Yeah?
Great.
Good. The first part is hugely important. Let's not try to use the safety valve as the dominant mode, right? Let's try to pursue consensus and really find common ground. It's an important issue. All of you are dedicating your time to it. The legislature is clearly interested, so let's give them something meaty and meaningful. Okay, you all have been patient and quiet, and we appreciate that. So we're going to do introductions now. It could be a little bit tricky, so I'm going to ask you to be particularly quiet at this point. We're just going to go alphabetically. I mentioned earlier that we had done interviews with about a dozen people. So I see for the first time faces that go along with voices that we've spoken to. We're going to ask a set of those people to share just a couple of minutes about what myths they'd like to bust, where they think others that are in a similar category are parked on the issue. And this will be our first chance just to hear a little bit from you all of what we think we're up against. And then we'll make some room to talk about the narrowing of the field, then we'll do our breakouts. Clear enough? All right, so we're gonna do our best to go in order, so I'll just call your name, and then if you would, give us your name, your title, the organization you represent. If you're one of the bolded folks with an asterisk next to your name, take a couple of minutes. And as Hollis asked you beforehand, just a little bit on your group's perspective. Mark Angerhofer, are you on the line?
I'm right here.
Oh, hey, Mark.
Mark Ingerhofer. I'm a research and development chemist at Craft Concentrates.
Welcome. Before we go on, were you guys able to hear Mark? Those of you on the phone?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, this isn't as bad as I had feared. All right, Richard Atkinson.
He wasn't able to be here today.
Okay, Richard's not here, thanks. Bill Bookout.
Bill Bookout, I'm the president and founder of the National Animal Supplement Council. We're a nonprofit trade association. We represent about 145 companies selling products that are similar to human dietary supplements for dogs, cats, and horses.
Thanks, Bill. Michelle Boyd, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line. This is Michelle Boyd. I'm with Iowa Department of Agriculture and a member of AFCO.
Thanks for being here. Craig Brand let us know that he could not be here today. He's in federal court in Florida, but he sends his regrets. David Bush.
Yes, I'm David Bush, an attorney with the Hogan Law Group. I was one of those asked to say something for a few minutes here. I was given 3 questions, and so I'm just going to try to do a quick minute or less on each of those. They're all about the agenda. It's to talk about what we're going to talk about, not for me to be offering my conclusions or opinions about where we should end up. The first question is, what is your group's position on hemp and animal feeds? I would say that I think what we need to have on our agenda is the entire plant. There was some suggestion that we should focus on hemp seeds. Hemp seed oil, hemp seed cake. If that's all we're going to talk about, I really question why we'd be here in the first place, because that is relatively uncontroversial. Hemp seeds are already being sold. They're already in animal feeds. You can go buy bird seed at any hardware store, and that's got hemp seeds. So there's a whole plant from flowers down to roots, and I think we should at least consider addressing that. Second question is, what will we get out of this exercise? I would submit that I think we need to avoid just focusing again on hemp seed foods and food additives. There's also the whole question of dietary supplements, and there's a lot of people who are making dietary supplements with cannabinoids and terpenes. Those should be on the agenda, I think. Third is, what is some myth you'd like to address during the study? Personally, one of the things that I have the most challenge with my practice is the distinction between regulating plants and regulating products, and they're not the same thing. There is a tendency for people to think, well, if industrial hemp plants are defined with a 0.3% concentration of THC or less, then that should apply to everything we bake as well. That's a conclusion that someone has jumped to without really any basis in the law. It's a political decision. It's a scientific decision, and so we should think about that, is how do we want to regulate products, not plants? Stop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. So next person on the list, Veronica Carpio. Veronica Carpio is in the room.
Did you want us to talk after everyone introduces ourselves, or?
No, I'm just going to ask you to, right now, just
Okay.
give your
Okay.
introduction.
My name is Veronica Carpio. I am with Grow Hemp Colorado. I'm the first female registered hemp farmer since Prohibition. I want to thank everyone for being here today, because we're actually making history with what we're about to do. So this is like hugely important, probably more than anyone grasps at this time. I would like to say that our industry, well, let me just step back really quick. So the goal of this study, originally this bill was going to make everything unadulterated, and that was not going to work for hemp. So the original goal was to make hemp unadulterated for animal products and livestock feed. That didn't go over super well, and that's why we end up with this study. But the overall goal for the U.S. industry for hemp, which I would speak on behalf of all of us at this point, is to get federal approval for the low-hanging fruit of hemp. So the first focus would be the hemp seed. So I disagree with David about that, because hemp seed is, there's two byproducts from that. It's hemp cake meal, and hemp seed oil. Those are the low-hanging fruits of hemp, which are going to get approval first. And the awesome part about all this is that the approval will happen not just for our state, but will happen on a federal level, making a tremendous change for the hemp industry itself and affecting all states. A lot of farmers opening up a huge door. So this is the main goal for us, is to actually do submission for AFCO to AFCO using existing data and studies already done in other countries that they already allow these type of hemp items to be fed to livestock and used in animal food products. There is some issues with the other parts of the plant, which we can of course address, but at this point there needs to be a lot more studies behind them done, and it's just not something that's going to happen overnight. The low-hanging fruit being the hemp seed cake and the hemp oil will happen in the next year. Hopefully, that's my timeline. And make a huge effect on the hemp industry within the next 12 months. So that's our goal, is to really get everyone on the same page, help any concerns that anyone has, thinking this might be marijuana, or if there's THC passing through to the consumer side through the meat that goes on the market approved by USDA and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm super thankful that everyone's here, and on behalf of the hemp industry, we look forward to working with all the regulators and lawmakers and attorneys to make this move forward for our industry. So thank you guys very much for being here.
Thank you, Veronica.
Yeah.
Bob Church, you're on the line.
Yeah, this is Bob Church with the Montana Department of Agriculture. I'm also representing AFCO as the oilseeds investigator in order to provide an ingredient definitions, the pathway. So that's about it for me.
Thanks, Bob. Jeff Clem, are you on the line?
Jeff was not able to make it this morning.
All right. Charlotte Conway on the line.
Hi, this is Charlotte Conway. I'm the Deputy Director of the Division of Animal Feed here at FDA, Center for Veterinary Medicine. We are the group that's responsible for reviewing food additive petitions for animal food, evaluating GRAS notices for animal food, and we work as the scientific consultant to AFCO in the ingredient definition.
Great. Thanks, Charlotte. Brian Cook.
Brian Cook,
Hey,
Farm
Brian.
Loan Manager, Farm Service Agency, and Trade Division of USDA.
Thanks for coming. Amy Daly. Is Amy on the line? All right. We'll go to Norm Dahlstead.
Present. I'm a professor of Extension Farm Ranch Management Economist with Colorado State University, Department of Agri-Resource Economics.
Thanks for joining, Norm. Megan Davis. I remember, Megan, you were on the line earlier. Oops, somebody's got to go on mute, please. Megan Davis. Remind me, we'll come back. Terry Fankhauser's in the room.
Yeah, my name is Terry Fankhauser. I'm the Executive Vice President with the Colorado Cattlemen's Association.
Hi, Terry. Emily?
Hello, I'm Emily Douglas. I'm representing Washington Department of Agriculture.
All right. Thanks, Emily. Kristen Green?
Hi, I'm Kristen Green. I'm with the University of Kentucky Division of Regulatory Services, and we regulate animal feeds for the state of Kentucky.
All right. Bill Hamrick's in the room, and we've also asked Bill to share his perspective.
Good morning. I am Bill Hamrick. I'm the Executive Officer of the Colorado Livestock Association. And in addressing the questions that you asked, we don't have any specific policy relative to hemp per se as a animal feed. Probably if we do have a policy that would connect to it is that our policy would say that we want to include in any animal feeds only those products or additives that are FDA approved. So that's not a direct connection to hemp, but through the back door, if you will, that would be our position. I would, in one of the emails, and I think this might have been the one that started off, welcome to the first of 3 onboarding informational emails, and near the end of that, in that last paragraph, you know, I'm not a scientist when it comes to hemp and the compounds that come from it, but it does mention in here that there is no nutritional intended use, and probably that would be our, you know, if we are going to incorporate any kind of a hemp related product, it would be from the nutritional standpoint. Now, if there are probiotic effects or those kind of things that research has indicated are components of this, then that would be of interest to it. But our first deal would be, one, is there nutritional value, and in what way? Because every feedlot and dairy that, at least of our membership, is very interested in making sure that the animal has the best balanced ration that they can, and that is cost effective. The other thing is, and I touched on this, but it says FDA has therefore concluded that it is a prohibited act to introduce or deliver for introduction in interstate commerce any food, including animal food or feed, to which a cannabidiol, did I pronounce that correctly?
You're right, yep.
Okay, has been added.
Correct.
So I think in looking at some of these other questions, Greg, I think that in the second one there, this would be an area that we would like to see addressed. Is there a path forward, whether ultimately the food industry, the animal food industry, decides they want to use the product or not? Is there a path forward to make the use or incorporation into your feedstuffs a legal practice?
Perfectly within scope.
And
Thanks,
a myth,
Bill.
I really don't have any myths, okay?
Yeah. Oh, just so
Perhaps
all of you
somebody
know,
else will share
one of the
those.
questions we asked was if there are any myths you want to bust, let's get them out there. All right? Keith Hankins is in the room.
Keith Hankins here. I've had a career in veterinary and human medicine, and a group that I'm with in the last couple of years is trying to develop a canine dog biscuit with cannabis byproducts.
Okay. Neil Hemberger.
Hi, this is Neil. I'm the plant manager at Ranchway Feeds in Fort Collins, Colorado. And we're on the manufacturing of animal feeds.
Great. Thanks for joining, Neil. Victoria Johnson's in the room.
Hi, Victoria Johnson. I'm also with Keith, and he neglected to tell our company, the Twisted Biscuit Group. So, but it is just a small business, so we're coming in from a little different perspective. We're at the bottom of the food chain. We want all this stuff to be fixed so we can grow our business. So.
Very well. Chelsea Kent.
Hi, this is Chelsea Kent, and I own Heroes Pets in Littleton, Colorado.